Three, two, one, here we go. Welcome to episode 183 of the Last Breath Huntcast. To everybody out there listening, man, I really appreciate you tuning in, checking us out. And everybody that's in the Last Breath Inner Circle, love seeing you there, love talking with you there. And today is kind of an interesting podcast. A friend of mine actually reached out and said, hey, you should have these guys, this company on your podcast. I think could go really well with Last Breath. And Jake Hofer was actually that guy that kind of put me in connection with Victoria and Aaron. Aaron is going to be the guest of the podcast today, and he is with Acres. So Acres is a really unique company for anybody that's looking to maybe purchase some land or just looking to see what their current assessment of their ground is worth. But I don't want to share too much into that other than the fact that I'm going to have Dr. Aaron Shue on, and he's the data science director at Acres. So I'm pretty excited to talk to him just to learn more about exactly what Acres does and really how people can utilize it to understand what it's going to do to help them when they're buying or assessing the value of their property. So again, if you're one of those people that maybe has some land or you're maybe going to be in the market anytime in the near future, might want to tune into this. But before we get into that, as always, you know the drill. We got to pay the bills. So first, I want to thank Dark Knight Outdoors. That is just a really great company that sells all kinds of thermal optics and coyote hunting related things, hog hunting related things right here in Milan, Illinois. They've got a fantastic Facebook group that you should check out, and they also have a really nice website. Next, kind of a breaking announcement here is that I'd also like to thank Pulsar Optics. Pulsar is a new partner of Last Breath, and I'm pretty excited to be working with them. I've been able to look through a lot of their optics, and man, they're kind of the pioneers, similar to like Moultrie in the trail camera industry. Pulsar is one of those companies that is just always been there. So looking forward to work with them and see what comes of it. I'm really excited to be using some of their new optics when I go down to Texas here in a couple weeks. But Pulsar, looking forward to working with them. And if you haven't checked them out, they've got some really cool stuff on the way. Next is Exodus Outdoor Gear. The Exodus MMT arrows are something you're going to hear me talk a lot about, especially when it gets closer to deer season. And that's because these arrows just make it quite simple for the hunter that wants the best gear they can and not have to have an arrow saw and run your calculations and have a fletching jig. They essentially build the best arrow for you with your setup, period, the end. Takes the guesswork out of it, shipped right to your door, pull them out of the package and shoot them. So they've got some really cool stuff that's coming. They listened to their consumers and they're going to deliver. And if you haven't checked them out, I would look into those MMTs. Lastly is Tompkins Taxidermy. Gosh, man, what good guys over there. Michael and Wayne knocked out some really cool mounts as of lately. They've done a full-size grizzly bear. They've done a pair of locked-up fighting bucks, a bobcat. They had a black buck. They had a half black bear life-size mount. So those guys have just been killing it, as always. If you want to really show your love for either of the local businesses that we're helping out here, which is Dark Knight or Tompkins, it takes about 2 minutes from start to finish to leave a Google review. And that goes a long way when you're helping out, a small business, people that are chasing their dreams, doing what they love. So if you don't mind, if you've had experience with either of those shops, go to Google, leave them that 5-star review, say something nice, and just be wholesome and honest with it. Share your experience and let other people that might be looking to either purchase an optic from Dark Knight or to take one of their trophies to Michael and Wayne, give them a little bit of reassurance that they're going to have a great experience. But other than that, let's get into the show. I am really excited to get Aaron on the line. We got to do a quick audio check, and then we'll be on here. So stick around. It's coming up right next. All right, everybody. I've got Aaron on the line. He is sitting in Arkansas. We had a quick little snafu earlier, but we're back live and running. So, Aaron, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Yeah. Enjoying the slightly warmer weather and the sunshine.
All right, all right. So I know this kind of feels like Groundhog Day because we literally we briefly got into our introduction and then for some reason the connection went bad. But Dr. Aaron Shue, I know you said leave off the doctor, but you've earned it, man. Go
Yeah,
ahead, give yourself an introduction, and then introduce Acres to the listeners.
absolutely. So I've spent about 15 years working in the ag industry. About 10 years of that was going to grad school in ag economics with a fair amount of work in geospatial sciences, so satellite remote sensing and GIS. Um, I've worked at Acres now in total for a year and a handful of months, almost a year and a half now. Followed the company a good amount of time before that. Love what I'm doing here. And so, yeah, combining, acres.co, that's acres.co, is a geospatial intelligence platform for folks that are interested in buying or selling land. So we provide a lot of tools and features for analyzing properties, potentially land, managing properties. Anyone that wants to buy or sell rural properties in general should want to go check out acres.co.
And so talking to Victoria earlier, it's pretty unique because this is we're breaking the ice here, but this is a great tool, just like you said, for really a very wide spectrum of people. It's not just buyers, but it's also landowners. It just, if they're on the market to sell or if they just want to know kind of more information about their land, Acres can do it.
Exactly.
So, in a nutshell, um, what would you say is like break down what acres.co does? You know what I mean? It give people a little bit of context here and if you can kind of break it down into layman terms of understanding what data they can really look at and how that can help them understand like the value or the potential of a property.
Yes, I can definitely do that. So I would say, one, acres is useful for anyone interested in land, period. Right. So I mean, we certainly have sort of premium and enterprise products that are focused on supporting land transactions. But to your point, landowners in particular, anybody interested in land should be finding use in acres. So what that looks like is we provide a lot of data for the entire lower 48. So um, so if you're in Alaska or Hawaii, we can't help you a whole lot. But for the lower 48, we've gathered a lot of data from disparate places and put it in one place to analyze property. So some examples, sort of the base of our map, would be parcel boundaries and our ownership layer. So you can go in and look at the boundaries, the parcel. If you're hunting, for example, a 150-acre tract or whatever it might be, you can see where the boundaries are and who owns that property. Um, and then using that, we layer a number of other insights onto that map. And so you can go in and look at, county rents and yields for crops in that area, crop history. We use crop history because a lot of our folks are farmers, but crop history also has timber, right? So it's got forested property or wetlands on there. So you could use it even for non-ag purposes. It's got floodways and wetlands, of course. So from a flood risk perspective, that can have implications for the value of a property. Maybe it has implications for like conservation reserve program with the USDA, or it may have implications for flyways for ducks or something like that, depending on your use case. We've got soils and some satellite imagery and some other things on there as well. So quite a few data layers that we provide in that sort of free base of acres.co. And we do have a web app that gives you some extra tools, but the mobile app for a lot of folks is great, right? I mean, if you're out in the field looking around trying to figure out where you're at on your hunting property, it's a great way to see where you're at.
Absolutely. And like mind you, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Aaron, but everything you just talked about comes with the free version. And then you offer some other versions that do cost a little bit of money, but however, dive into even more data, more analytics, correct?
That is correct. Yes. So
Perfect.
Yep. Parcels and owners and all of the data that I just spoke about is free. And we do that because that all of that information is public record. Um, and a lot of that data is government data, right? The public has already paid for it via taxes. It's unfortunately hidden deep away in government databases that are difficult to access. And so we try to collate all that information into a really easy to use platform and package it in this free to use tool. But yeah, certainly we also are a business, right? So our monthly premium version is $30 a month, or it's $300 a year, and you're getting some additional functionality there. You're able to search properties in a more extensive fashion at county and state levels, and you can generate really nice PDF reports. So again, it's geared more for like a land broker. So if you're trying to share all this data with a client in an external document, we do a lot of support for that. And then similarly, we have courthouse comparable sales data. And so we're not ever going to estimate the value of your property like Zillow. It's rural properties in general are just too difficult to do that for. But we do provide courthouse comparable sales, so you can see what's sold in your area and what makes sense or doesn't make sense for a property that you're interested in.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think that's a huge asset right there because there are, you obviously have some competition in the market as far as boundary levels go, but you have nobody that's really going to be able to touch putting comparables right there for you. And then you said that you had some opportunities with like leasing or rent. Is can you see that historical data too, as far as income generated from a property?
Yeah, so we're gonna stay at like the county level. So what we're doing, so the USDA actually does surveys, and this is primarily on farmable land. So I want to make sure that's clear too. This is for like agricultural land, so cropland. So we do pull the county rent, which is like the estimated cash rent for that parcel for the past 4 years, I think is what we've got in there now. So 2019 to 2022. Um, and so you can kind of get an idea: is it 120 bucks an acre? Is it 250 bucks an acre? Depends on where you're at. I mean, up your way, you guys get pretty good rental rates up your way. It's good ground. But even more interesting than that to me, like these county rents are really just a baseline, right? You're generally going to get more than what the USDA is reporting, but the real value I see is that sort of 4 year picture. So is it trending up, or is it trending down, or is it staying flat? That's the really interesting piece to me when looking at county rents from there. And then same with the county yields. Yields are going to be pretty flat in most places, but in some places you might see a spike or a decline due to weather events or something.
Yeah, and so I mean, talking to people that are interested in purchasing land, this there's always a caveat that if you buy especially recreational ground to be able to defray your land payments somehow, right? Can you put some existing property into maybe a CRP or a tree program, or if there's agricultural ground, are you going to be able to make money off that, which you can, and like right here is just a good way to, as you said, get an idea. It's not set in stone, but at least it gives you a good starting place, maybe a good average to say, okay, my average income back off this ground is X. And it helps like people, especially like my wife and I have been poking and prodding around looking at buying property, and it's a factor of being able to buy pieces, and specifically maybe a little bit larger pieces that maybe you wouldn't be able to without income.
That's a great use case, and I think that's an excellent example of what we hope people use this free version for. I similar to you. I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up working on a lot of farms, but never owned farmland. And now my main interest would be hunting. I mean, I whitetail hunt and I do a little bit of duck hunting and whatnot. So when I'm looking now, I mean, Northwest Arkansas is not great for cropland, but we've got decent amount of cow calf operations and pasture and a lot of timber. So I'm often looking at properties that have some mixed use between pasture and timber. And, I look at those, rental rates for pasture are super low. And so it'd probably be me raising cattle as opposed to somebody else. I'm looking at that, looking at timber, and is there a way for me to even rotate a few cuts and pay down some of the some of that principal. So that's one use case. I mean, obviously, if it's cropland, I've got friends down in the Arkansas Delta. I mean, you can make a good bit of money on duck leases. You put in a good duck blind, and you got cropland on top of that that you can lease out um, for a fair amount. 150, $200 an acre, maybe more, depending on how good the ground is. Yeah, it's a great way to have a recreational property for yourself. Bring in a little money. It may not necessarily pay you money, but if you can pay for the land, then it's worth it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Or even just cutting down that land payment to make it a lot more
A look,
stomachable,
yeah,
right?
that's
Um,
right.
so one question I had, does Acres have any logging history data available? Especially up in our area in the Midwest, there's a hardwood timber that's pretty desirable, especially when you get into like black walnuts and white oaks and other things. Is there any data like that on Acres?
There isn't. It's a really interesting idea. Um, you picked the probably the most challenging because I have a few responses. Like we we have historical imagery, which can get you part of the way there. And then I've been working with, I run our data science team. And so I help put a lot of this data in the back end. I don't make it look pretty. We luckily have great developers and, and designers to help make it useful for the typical person. Um, but we're working on the data science team is working on a couple of things for timber maturity again, and maybe down the road. But hardwoods would be the hardest, right? So the longest running satellite platform constellation that could be used for something like this is Landsat, and so it can get you back into the 80s, which is a long way. I mean, yeah, you could probably do something with hardwoods on that too, but we don't have anything that'll get you that far back right now. The historical imagery layer goes back 10 years, or I guess 12 now. I keep thinking, actually 13 years, 2010. I feel like it's still 2020. I don't know. But it'll get you back to 2010. So if something was harvested and if it's a young timber stand, then we will pick that up. You'll be able to see that in the historical imagery layer. At some point, I think we might have, if we actually created a model that, estimated timber age, for example, for pines or hardwoods, that would probably be in the paid version. Um,
For
and it,
sure.
it might be something we consider down the road.
Yeah. So, all right, before we get into talking about the good stuff here, hunting, um, if you are, I guess I'd like to hear it from you, the data guy, right? You lead
Sure.
the whole department. Um, if you are a seller or a buyer, what's your process here when you go to Acres? What would you recommend? What do you start with? What do you look for? And then, what are you taking away from it?
Great question. So, if you I'll try to talk through a property as if we're in East Arkansas and maybe you're interested in duck hunting. Just to give somebody a flavor of what that process looks like. So, when you open acres.co, you're going to land on a sort of a nationwide map, and then I zoom into East Arkansas, and I might, zoom in even further onto like Cross County. And, Cross County's got a big wetland area that runs through the middle of it. And so likely a lot of ducks and wildlife and number of sloughs and creeks and drainages and ponds and plenty of things for good duck habitat, right? So if that's the use case here and I'm looking for cropland that I might purchase, lease out, and set up a duck club, that's kind of what I'm going to walk through here. So zoom in, found a property, a parcel, right on a creek to the edge of a large wetland. And so then I can start clicking through. I can look at county rents. It looks like this area trending up the past 4 years for all cropland. Um, and it looks like it's about $120 an acre. So it's not I mean, and that's not this property, right? That's sort of the county baseline. So it's likely that's less than what I could actually get for it this year.
Okay.
But it's a starting point. I might then skip down and look at crop history. So Given I'm looking for, duck, I'm probably gonna look for rice soybean rotation. So I click that crop history. Looks like the one I'm landing on here has a good rice soybean rotation, and it's right on a creek, so I know that there's a good chance for holding water through the winter. That's what that rice tells me. It means that that's probably a clay soil, and because it's got to hold water for rice. But the cool thing now is I can actually click over to the soil layer and let's see it. Okay, yep, it's mostly alligator clay, which is one of the most common types of, in fact, the top three soil types on this particular parcel are clay. Um, and that means they're going to hold water, not just for my rice, but then when it comes winter, we get those November, December rains, and it'll hopefully pool up in the bottom of my field, keep my levees in, and it'll store some water to bring those ducks in. So I'm going to look at it in that way. I might then look at the elevation, see which end of the field the water is going to pool in. I can change the contour intervals, even down to like 5. So you can get a pretty granular look at where the pooling is going to occur on the field. So I can think about where my duck blind might go, if there's not already one there, that is to say. I can actually draw a shape or upload a file. So if I've got a KMZ file or I want to draw a shape on this property, I can actually save the property, customize and add a well. I can add a duck blind with some notes on it. Soon we'll have the ability to upload pictures. So if you're on site and you want to take a picture where your stand is or where your blind is, you can do that. Um,
Nice.
so from there, I might look through the historical imagery layer, see if there have been any major changes to this property in the last few years, any new ditches, any, the historical imagery layer is pretty interesting because it's taken during the peak growing season. They call it leaf on. So typically a summer taken aerial picture, and so if I click back, I'm at 2019, so that's like the most recent right now. Pretty soon it'll have 21 and 22 in here. But then I might go all the way back to 2010 and just see. And it actually does. It looks like they've done some levee work and they've cleared a couple of fence rows on this property. They've added a canal, in
What?
fact. So I can actually see a lot of that change that's taken place in the last 10 years just to get a better picture of the what's happened on that property, what kind of
Right.
money's been invested on improvements and things like that.
See, that right there is just that's where I think Acres to me just stands out from, say, like Onyx. Onyx does a great job of showing you property lines and markers and whatnot, but you can't see that history where you just boom, 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 watch it progress
Right.
as you see the change over the last, like you said, 10 or now 13 years. So that's pretty impressive.
It is. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like I'm not here to, I use Onyx. I love Onyx. It's a great tool for hunting and gives you a lot of additional features when you're moving around and you're tracking your path and trying to navigate to your stand and things like that. I like to think of this tool as complementary to that. So when you're trying to buy a property and just kind of a high level assessment of the value it could bring to you for hunting and for agricultural purposes or whatnot, and just documenting all the data and information you want to keep with your potential property. This is a great tool for
Yeah.
that.
Yep. Yep. It's
And
not Onyx.
yeah,
It's not here to replace it. But I'm just,
that's right.
a lot of because I have friends that look for leases or look for property, and obviously it's like it's the starting point. It seems is one of those property lined apps that are out there. Onyx or Base Map or Hunt
Sure.
Stand, etc. This is just a whole nother level of knowing what you're getting into. What you're inheriting, what you're buying, I should say.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Nice. So, all right, Aaron, now let's talk about some stuff that I want to know, the nitty gritty. I had some teaser photos from Victoria here, but
Okay. Yeah.
let's. You said hunting. Sounds like you're whitetails through and through. That's your bread and butter. And you do some duck hunting, but hit us up about your hunting history. How long you been hunting? Do you bow hunt, gun hunt, all of it? What do you give us the rundown, dude?
Yeah. I'm happy to. I can talk about hunting all day. I mean, I love talking about acres. Don't get me wrong, but I can. We ought to light up a campfire and sit around for a while. So yeah, I whitetail hunter through and through. I grew up in rural Middle Tennessee. And let's see, probably killed my first deer when I was, I don't know, 8 or 9. Something I was pretty young. I think I was 9. And so I've hunted for a long time. I mean, I started before that, BB gun with BB gun chasing rabbits and squirrels
Oh yeah.
is really where it all started. But started with whitetail. I kind of hunt everything, but I would say most recently I've become a more avid bow hunter. I'm new to it, really. This is just going to be my second year. Really going all in. I bow hunted some in high school, but that was 18 years ago. So picked up a bow last winter. Or shoot, I guess that was last spring, about this time last year, and started really getting after it. Hunted whitetails hard this year. Killed my first buck with a bow, and I it's hooked me, man. I'm not sure I'm going back to a gun for whitetails. That is,
Right.
uh,
Dude, what
it's
it's totally different, isn't it? Now I don't I love it all. I'm with you. And
same.
like most people, you start with a gun usually, but just getting them within bow range, making the right moves, taking your time, getting the shot off, like it's just a whole different game. It's not even in my mind, and other people might have a different opinion, but I don't think it's comparable to gun hunting.
It's not. I mean, and down here, I have yet to purchase any land, so I'm still mostly. I had some land a while back that I gun hunted, some private land, but they sold it, and so I'm mostly on public land now. And so public land with a bow, I don't know that it gets a whole lot harder than
No, it does
that.
not. No way.
And it's but it's fun. I mean, I shot a small buck this year, probably smaller than I would have ever shot with a gun. But I was chomping at the bit, and haven't. Yeah, I mean, also hunting from the ground, so not even in a stand, which makes it even more challenging.
Dude, yeah,
Um,
no kidding. So I got a
so
funny saying for you. There's an old archery shop out here. It's called Griswold Archery, and Terry is the owner. A lot of people call him Grizz. And
okay,
I remember I bought my dad actually gave me his bow, hand me down, and I took it over there, and Terry set it up for me. And I remember when I killed my first buck, and I was proud as punch, and I had my dad drive over there to tell Griswold, and Terry told me, like, I don't know, I was 13, 14, I can't remember. And he's like, your first buck with your bow's like your first piece of ash. You'll never forget it. And I've never forgot that saying. It's so true. It's hilarious.
yeah, that is hilarious.
So, and who
Uh,
can, you got to start somewhere, dude. And so you were on the ground. Did you just kind of walk in, find a spot? Did you do some scouting firsthand? And I know Arkansas is way different than up here. So
yeah,
the terrain down there is just a lot different. Are you mostly pines or do you have some hardwoods?
no, I mean, we do have pines, but I'm mostly hardwoods, very steep. So Fayetteville, I mean, our elevation up here is like 1,700 feet. So we're pretty high in elevation,
Yeah.
um, and pretty rugged terrain. So I scout a lot. So speaking of Onyx, I spend a lot of time preseason, putting cameras out, hiking the woods. I'm hoofing it a mile or mile and a half in, trying to get some space between me and anybody else that might be out there. Um, and I generally locate a few spots and then kind of rotate them through the season. And it's pretty successful. I mean, I finally, inevitably, I'm still learning a lot here, and bow is just so different, right? I mean, the one of the more challenging things, not just being on the ground, but also just scent.
Yeah.
Dealing with your scent in the hills and the mountains. There are a lot of valleys I would love to hunt, and I tried early in the season and realized pretty quickly that just the scent swirls, and so it's just almost impossible to get a decent deer to come in. And so just a lot of trial and error this year, but I did finally. I kind of blew my chance at probably the best year I've ever shot at. It was back late January, end of the season. Uh, Came in and I was in my ground blind, which is kind of weak. But anyway, he came in stopped at 25 yards and just stared me down, and I couldn't move.
Oh no.
And yeah, and he took off up the hill behind him. He stopped, and I didn't have time to range him, but I guessed, and I guessed he was 40 and shot right over his back.
Oh, he was
He was
closer.
he was actually like he was just like a straight up, it was a huge hill, and I thought he was further than he actually was. I had hair on my arrow. I mean, no blood, but just literally went straight across his back, and nothing so humbling, but also thrilling as that kind of experience.
Dude, and
Um,
if you I mean, man, it happens to everybody.
oh yeah,
Everybody. It just sucks that it happens on the deer like, that, you know?
yeah,
So, I gotta
yeah.
ask, what's your reason for not getting in a tree?
Well, I mean, I think I probably will this year. Getting into bow hunting, like any hobby, is expensive. So it's honestly like, uh, so part of it last year. So I plan to buy a saddle this year. I'm pretty excited for that. I don't. I think if I was in a saddle that year, I would have had him. And but last year we actually kicked off bow hunting because my dad and brother wanted to go out to Colorado and do an over-the-counter archery hunt for elk. And so I kind of dove into the deep end. That was like,
Oh, yeah.
we spent 9 days out there, hiked 50 plus miles and climbed 10,000 feet chasing elk, and never could, we got a few on the bugle, but never could seal the deal and get them in more than a couple hundred yards. But so I blew all my money on that trip. So by the time I bought the bow and got everything going for 6 months, spent the money to go out to Colorado, I think my wife was pretty well ready for me to not spend any more money on hunting.
Dude, you went from, like, entry level to, like, advanced. Do you being a data guy, have you looked up what the success rate is for, Colorado archery
Yeah,
permits?
it's
Yeah.
poor.
It's very poor, and it's even worse on public ground. So,
Yes,
wow, you're a glutton for punishment. I
it's
will say this, like, I I love hunting whitetails. I mean, it's right. We're in the bailiwick of whitetails, right?
right.
It's the
Yeah,
best of the best here in Central
it
Illinois.
is.
Um, but when you get elevated, it does add just a very nice element to your enjoyment. I mean, there is you will do your research. You're a data guy, but I think you'll find that either going with a very lightweight mobile stand or a saddle will increase your opportunity. And like I've killed deer out of saddles and I've used it. It's kind of like in my arsenal. And with you
Sure.
walking in that far, the one thing that I do like about a saddle compared to an ultralight hanger are two things. The first thing is like when I go in, I'll wear my saddle. So it's,
Hmm.
what I'm carrying in essentially I've got my pack on my back and usually I'll strap my lightweight sticks on my back and then I'm just carrying my bow. So one hand is
Sure.
free and if I need to grab my binos out of my bino harness or something, I really like that. The other thing that I like about a saddle versus a stand is that there's most of your nice stands can go into a lot of different trees. But what I really like about the saddle is that I can hang in any tree.
Anything.
Any,
Yeah.
and depending on where you're at there, like sometimes the tree you need to be in is just a mangled mess. And,
Right.
I use the modular sticks, right? So I can bounce wherever I need to, but it's not very comfortable to sit in a stand where the tree is pushing you out of it or maybe cocked to the side. But with a saddle, man, you can level yourself really easy and get pretty comfortable. Um,
Yeah.
a, cou-
That's
a couple tips that I can share with you, and I'm no expert saddle hunter for real. I've killed way more deer out of stands than I have saddles, but that I really like having a small platform, even just a little ledge for you to sit on instead of standing on top of your sticks. It really improved my comfort. Um,
sure.
and then like I keep some pretty cheap knee pads that I'll slip on when I get to the base of the tree, and that's nice too because sometimes you'll maybe like want to take a little break rest and set your knees against a tree. And I'm not saying it hurts necessarily, but having that little bit of cushioning is a nice little perk, I guess. So those are the two little tricks, and you'll find many more out there.
Yeah, that's a great set of tips.
But, having just like I said, a burner pair of knee pads, make sure you get the ones that like Velcro in the back, not the slip-on ones, because you don't want to be
Right.
trying to pull them over your outside camo or whatnot. And then for a while, for a couple of years, I would just stand on the top peg of my sticks just to be extra lightweight. And then
Mhm.
I finally just pulled the trigger and bought a nice little micro platform strapped right to my pack. And dude, what a difference that makes! I'm
Yeah, I bet.
serious. They're anywhere from $100 to $250. So it's not like they give them away,
Yeah,
but
yeah, sure,
boy, oh boy,
but worth it in
worth it.
comfort.
Oh yeah, and I found too, like, it helps me get higher if I need to. Like, with the top stick, if I'm sitting on the top rung of my top stick, that's my max. But I can get like another probably foot or so out of having a platform. And in some cases, I can get pretty much anywhere I need to with three sticks and my platform, and get plenty high.
Yeah,
So, anywho,
it's
again, I'm no expert, but I'm excited for you. I'm going to be keeping tabs on you for when you
I'm
get up
looking yeah,
in a
I'm looking
tree.
forward to this year. It's funny, the deer I shot over, and then there's 2 others I've been tracking, and I've got them all 3 on camera in February, right before they dropped antlers, and so they all made it through the season, and I'm excited to get back out there, so
Hell yeah. So now do you do any turkey hunting? Because I think spring turkey season is getting ready to start,
oh,
or
yeah,
it already
we're
has.
we're coming up on it. It's funny, I haven't actually turkey hunted in a long time. I turkey hunted quite a bit in high school. I mean, it's super fun. There's nothing quite like it. And this is the first year I actually put in for a tag on public land, but didn't get drawn. But I'm going to try to get out in April with a buddy of mine. He's got some land in Central Arkansas. We're going to try to hit that over the weekend and see what we can do. It's funny. Elk hunting is this weird amalgamation where you're hunting this huge animal like a deer, much larger than a deer, but basically hunting like a turkey.
100 with the element of the wind. If turkeys
Yeah,
could smell you, I don't know. I don't think people would. It'd be one of the
yeah, be
hardest
almost
animals to hunt,
impossible
right?
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
But you hit it on the head. That's the elk hunting is for a Midwesterner, right? That doesn't live in
right.
Colorado. That's
Mhm.
it. You're like
It
you're
is
turkey
exactly.
hunting giant ungulates.
Yeah, that's right.
So shoot. Well, are
Uh,
you going to be going back out west? Do you think? Did you get a little taste,
yeah,
or what
I
do you think?
I at some point I'm gonna hold off this year. Um, so we took Dad out. It was kind of his dream to get out there and go. My dad's 72, and so my brother and I, mean, the three of us. Little brother couldn't make it last year, but we've been hunting together for a long time, of course, and so got Dad out there. It's pretty rough terrain. Dad spent a lot more time trout fishing and enjoyed that just as much, but uh, honestly, we've been talking about maybe trying to hit whitetails a little closer to home. It's hard to get 9 days. I mean, it's just a tough trip when you've got a 15 to 20 hour drive both ways and rugged and expensive. So I mean, we're talking, and we could probably go to Iowa or Illinois or somewhere and get a really nice whitetail. Spend quite a bit less money and quite a bit less time. So we've been kicking that around. I think we'll end up back out west. I would love to get back out there, but I think that may be an every other year kind of event. Spend a little more
Absolutely.
time preparing.
Well, if you decide to come up this way, I can help you as much as I can with Illinois. I mean, property is hard to get anywhere. You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's right.
it's uh, it's changing, and not to go on a tangent here, but I often wonder. I think right now we're in some of the best hunting our country has seen, just because we have the management efforts behind it. Um, and in Illinois, I track the harvest data very closely, and it's been interesting to see the decline in hunting license and even permit sales that have happened. And
Huh.
and you look at kind of like my generation. I'm in my 30s, and the one behind me, and so on and so forth. There's definitely less of a recruitment of outdoorsmen. Um,
Sure.
and it's surprising even to see in like some of the farming families that I know of, people that have access to ground that is gorgeous, and their
Hmm.
their kids just don't have any interest in it. Um,
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is it'll be very interesting to see, over the next 20 years what happens, because the caveat to this is that do I think there are less younger hunters? Yes, but the people that are like my age and your age are not satisfied with just having the back 40. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
So right now I feel like the guys that are super obsessed and into it are kind of counter weighing the younger generation not coming in, because even though maybe there's less hunters, there's still every bit of land is spoken for because of guys like me and you and the listeners of this podcast that like, man, I want ground to hunt and I want it to be good ground, you know what I mean? And I want to have maybe a couple different options, etc. So that
Right.
being a data guy, I mean, it'll be interesting to track it and
Yeah.
see what
That's
happens.
I totally agree. Have you seen, speaking of that, I mean, I've been uh, checking out land trust quite a bit. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like they're making some headway in providing. It's been a while since I've checked into it. Honestly, I probably will look again this year. But where you know landowners can put up their land for lease, it's just kind of a common marketplace for hunting leases.
There,
Have you had any experience with that, or have any thoughts about it?
So that one and Hunting Lease Network are kind of the two big ones that come to mind
Okay.
for online lease opportunities. And the unfortunate truth is this, like, um, I don't know many landowners around here that if they want to lease their
Would
property
participate.
doesn't have somebody locally that would probably do it, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
my concern would be is that if there's a piece of property on there, a you're probably going to pay a premium for it, which
That's right.
maybe, given the situation, you're willing to do that. But the biggest concern is like, especially on the hunting lease network, because those are more times than not, those are properties that have been leased prior. Why is the current leasee giving it up?
Yeah, that's right.
And so you don't know that information. And so it's kind of like, well, what are they, do I not, and that's where I would guess I would say, either with land trust or the hunting lease network, just make sure that you do some poking around. Maybe that area got
Sure.
hit by EHD aggressively last year, and like
Yeah.
there's 60 to 70% of the herd loss. Or maybe you come to find out that the neighbors are large party hunters, and so maybe the density is really low there. But I think those are good opportunities to find places. But in my opinion, man,
Yeah.
the
Still weak.
networking and handshakes are the best way to get yourself into a quality long-term lease, in my opinion.
Agreed.
You know,
Agreed.
um, but
Yeah.
I don't want to shy you away from looking on those places. Just I don't got to tell you, do your research before you
Sure.
lock yourself
Yeah, and I
into
mean
something.
it's still so few and far between that it would be hard to gauge if you're interested in a local. I mean, at least here, I don't think there was a ton last time I checked. And honestly, I mean, we one thing I do love about Arkansas, we have a lot of great public land. There are a lot of really good WMAs, good management. I mean, the place I currently hunt is 14,000 plus acres, and it's bow only and no ATVs. So I
Wow.
mean, it's well protected.
Yeah. So
And
that's where Illinois really falls short. We have one very large national forest that's down south, Shawnee National Forest. But other than that, like our our pieces of public are typically going to be less than 1,200 acres. I mean, so that sounds big, but not when you put 25 guys on it or more. You
yeah,
know what I
sure,
mean? It definitely shrinks pretty quickly. And but that also being said, again, if you're thinking about looking this way, there's some opportunities on some public pieces where they give out limited permits. You apply for them; they're $10. But I like the way that they structure them because they break the public ground up into parcels, and then within those parcels there's only one or two hunters, so it's kind of like private access really on public ground, and it's archery only as well. But you get yourself a very nice sized piece of property that maybe you and one other guy share for the entire season. So um, just there are some opportunities in Illinois like that maybe not you and your brothers would all get it at the same time, but it would
right.
it would definitely be a lot different of experience than coming and just hitting a random piece
Yeah,
of open walk-in public.
that's for sure. Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. May have to follow up with you after this on that.
Well, you got my cell phone now,
So,
so other than sending me
yeah,
feet pics.
that's right. Yeah.
But no, man. I guess in a nutshell here, we'll kind of circle back to acres. I have one thing on here that I wanted. It's acres genesis. I don't know if we touched on that. Was that something that
Okay.
that we need to
Yeah.
bring up?
Yeah. Happy to chat through it. So, um, we we started out really building a due diligence tool, and the reason for that is um, our parent company is Acre Trader, which is a place to invest in farmland. So historically, farmland has been really difficult to invest in. Right, you have to have millions and millions of dollars and a lot of knowledge, and
Yeah.
just a very complicated. Agriculture is a complicated industry, right? So investing in the asset class has been really hard. And what Acre Trader has done is created really great partnerships with local farmers across the country. I think we're in 15 plus states now, and over 100 farms that are under our sort of management at this point. And so what the way it works is that a farmer might come to us, and kind of similar to your discussion about hunters, in fact, is that the average age of a farmer is 65, something like that nationally. And so we're going to see a lot of farmland turnover in the
Mm-hmm.
next decade, a whole
Mm-hmm.
lot. And there just aren't a lot of young folks that are interested in taking on a farm.
Which is
Um,
crazy to me.
and
I mean,
yeah, it's
that's like the Willy Wonka golden ticket, dude. How would you not want
right.
that? But anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's love the idea. I think the reason really is risk, um, and just the financial barrier. So often, even if you're inheriting land, it's often at this point, granddad's moving out. Let's say he's going to retire and going to get rid of the farm, and a nephew or you, let's say, want to take that on, and you want to buy the farm, but you've got five other inheritors you've got to buy out. Well, if it's a $5 million farm, you got $4 million to come up with.
Right.
So it makes it really hard financially. So what Acre Trader does for folks like that is you could come to them. We obviously vet the property. We do our due diligence, make sure that it's got to be a good fit for the farmer. We don't want to put any farmer in a bad situation. The farm's got to be productive for that farmer. It's also got to be productive enough to pay the cash lease, which then gets passed up to investors in returns. And so um, that farmer, or let's say you that are taking on that farm, can work with Acre Trader, keep your stake in the farm. That's sort of your skin in the game. Acre Trader will capitalize or create an investment, um, an opportunity for investors to buy out the other four individuals on that property. And so that's all under one LLC, and then we can manage it. Uh, we would expect to sell that in something like anywhere from 5 to 10 years, sometimes a little longer, and you would get the first right to purchase it, first right of refusal,
Wow.
or first right of offer. I can't remember which one, but first right of offer, I think, is what the farmer would get in that case. And so it gives people a way to buy that farm that they have wanted to farm, and gives them a way to build up the finances to actually purchase it and manage it on their own. What we found, or what Acre Trader found in examining those properties, is they were using 4 or 5 different softwares. They're using Google Earth, and they're using a handful of other government data sources, and different mapping platforms, and it just was a pain to actually put all the information together, um, before saying, yes, this is a good farm for Acre Trader, or no, this is not a good farm for Acre Trader. So thus the genesis of acres.co. Let's put all this in one place. Let's get the comparable sales data. Let's get all of the satellite imagery and the soils information, and the plat map, and let's put it in one place where we can generate a report and do some analysis. And so kind of built to support Acre Traders' due diligence efforts, and realize that actually there are a lot of folks that would benefit from this kind of technology. So we've opened it up for, again, that base free, um, free tier is open to anybody, and folks that are in the brokerage service or industry can really benefit from the premium version.
Wow. All right. So, well, to wrap this up here, I've got a couple different questions here. So, one thing we do at the Last Breath Huntcast, we have controversies, and
Okay,
there's nothing like controversy, right? So, these are
that's
just
right.
some simple questions. We're not going to get into the weeds about it, but just kind of to stir the pot a bit. Being a data guy, and I don't know where all you've hunted, but you obviously have been able to see so much stuff. What is your and don't think you have to answer because I'm all don't say Illinois just because I'm from Illinois. But what do you think is the number one whitetail state?
Ooh, man, that is a good question. So, I mean, I would, I mean, saying one state would be pretty hard, I think, but probably, I mean, the whole Corn Belt has great whitetails.
Oh no,
Um,
you gotta hit one,
the
buddy. You gotta say a state.
Okay, just to stoke the controversy, I might say Northeast Missouri.
Ooh. And why is that?
So, well, you're still basically in that Corn Belt area, but there's probably less pressure than you might get in Illinois or Iowa. So, I would actually think state overall is going to be Iowa or Illinois. Um, but I think the best bang for your buck, if you're an out-of-state hunter, is going to be somewhere like Northeast or Northern Missouri.
I I think
So,
you're not too far off there. The only thing that would deter me from Missouri, well, maybe not. I mean, depends on how you look at it, but they have a very, very long rifle season. And,
yep,
but, shoot, I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, if I was a Missouri resident or hunted down there, I would not shy away from picking up my rifle if need be, to take
right, right,
take that target buck. But yeah,
sure.
I do think you're right though. Like it's pretty impressive, like the property value difference between like central Iowa and northern Missouri.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Big difference. Okay, next question here. Stir the pot again. Fixed or mechanical broadheads?
Ooh, man. So I hunt mechanicals, um, but I would say the exception is with elk. I'm going to go with a fixed.
Right? Man,
But
yeah,
I,
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, with whitetails, I shoot rage hypodermics and love them. I mean, I've not had an issue yet. Again, I'm 1 year in, but I've shot a lot of arrows, target, and killed my first deer and then missed a deer. But I've been really happy with those so far.
It's
But yeah, for elk, I want something that's got a little more stability and a little more punch and less capacity to take damage.
yeah. It's such an opinionated topic, and both sides of the fence are. It's like politics, man. They love their stance. I've bounced around from both fixed to mechanical and back to fixed, and et
Sure.
cetera. I think when it comes down to it, doesn't matter if you're a fixed or mechanical guy. Number one thing that kills deer with a bow is accuracy.
Yeah, that's right.
If you can't,
Yeah,
if you hit them wrong, that's on you. You can't blame the broadhead for that. You know what I
that's
mean?
right.
I feel
Yep.
like that's the root of that argument. Is somebody's like, I hit him perfect, but never recovered him. Mm, did you
Yeah, I'm
though?
gonna question that.
Because if you hit him perfect, you could probably kill him with a field point. But
That's right.
anywho. Okay, so my last question here. And this is, I'm interested for this answer, and I picked it because you're from down south. Rubber boots or lace ups?
Ooh, another good one. So I often go rubber boots. Depends on the terrain, honestly. Here, I've got some areas that are going to be swampy, uh, and I hunt. Yeah, so I hunt kind of a wetland area sometimes. So I'm always going to pick the rubber boots in that area, insulated, of course. But if I'm going to be going out to like that 14,000 acres, the WMA, it's mostly high terrain, a lot of steep hills.
Hmm.
I'm going to choose lace ups so I don't get that rub and whatnot. So So I actually have both and use both. Just depends on the terrain I'm going to.
Yeah, dude, I suppose I don't hunt any swampland, and if I did, I would probably, like you said, justify having some rubber boots. But about 3 years ago, I switched to lace ups, and the only thing I use my rubber boots for now is pouring concrete.
Yeah,
Oh man, like,
fair enough.
like you said, I'm not out, squishing around in swamps. So,
Right.
uh, well, Aaron, is there anything else you want to add to the podcast?
Well, I just invite everybody to go download our acres.co mobile app. Get on your desktop if you prefer a web app, but download the mobile app, take it with you to the woods, take it with you to the field, see what we've got. Got some interesting data there to check out. So, but yeah, really enjoyed the chat, Garrett, and look forward to staying in touch and may reach out about some Illinois hunting.
You're more than welcome to. Like I said, shoot me a text and we can jump on the line when we're off air here. But no, I appreciate it. Really quick, acres.co. Are you on social media, Instagram and Facebook?
Yes, we are. LinkedIn is another big one that I know we use. But yeah, we're on. Oh, and also YouTube. I think we've got a number of YouTube channels coming out now with our data. So acres.co.co. And a last shout out that we've got a .com coming down the road. So not yet, but we'll be there soon.
Nice. Well, again, Aaron, thanks for taking the time to chat. I appreciate it. I think, like you said, anybody, whether you're an owner looking to purchase or anything, can use acres.com. And it was just nice talking some hunting with you, buddy. So I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, great talking to you. Catch you later, Garrett.
See you, buddy. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in again to episode 183. Aaron seems like a super awesome guy. How cool was it that he killed his first deer with a bow last year? So, I played around with this app prior to the podcast, and you probably heard me say it on the podcast, but I think the number one cool thing about this is that historical photo data, and you can. Sometimes it's kind of disheartening, but you can really see how much land has changed over the last 10 years or so. Um, but it is very interesting. I think that if, my in the previous podcast I told you that wife and I are looking for some property. Um, it's going to be one of the number one tools that we use when we're trying to find property to look at, anything historical, sales transaction data, any type of BPI, vegetational data, watershed data, et cetera. It's all really nice because it's at one place. But anywho, we'll cut this one to a close. Like I said at the beginning too, I really appreciate you guys listening and being here and just supporting me and what we do. Looking forward to this season. I mean, turkey season is literally knocking on the door. So got some great stuff lined up. Can't wait to put it out for you. And as always, don't waste it.